Okay, guys, it's me again. Same day, Tuesday. It's now about 2 o'clock, and I'm going to go through the last section with you today. So, because I just want to make sure it's up and ready for you, and you're good to go. So, let me share my screen. Whoops, that's not how to do it. Uh-oh, I gotta find where I put the thing now. Hang on. Oh goodness. I gotta find where I put it. Oh, there it is. Okay, let me try again. Okay, share screen. There it is. Okay, so we ended yesterday with you writing a journal on what do you think is the hardest part of being in Supreme Court justice. Today we're going to look at the special courts. This is a little bit shorter. Yesterday was the longest section. So 18.4 is the shortest section on the special courts. And it's about how can citizens sue the government in the U.S. Court of Federal Claims. What are the roles of the territorial courts of the DC courts? What functions do the U.S. Courts of Appeal for the Armed Forces and the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims have? And then what types of cases are brought to the U.S. tax courts? I bet you can guess on that one what the answer is. They have to do with federal taxes. All right. Court of Federal Claims. The U.S. Court of Federal Claims handles all pleas against acts of the United States government. Okay. So those who have claims against the United States can possibly secure redress. Redress is a satisfaction of a claim, usually through some sort of payment through this court. Okay. So redress would be a monetary payment. Okay. And that's the Court of Federal Claims. All right, the next one are the territorial courts, which are our territories, right? So under its power to govern the territories of the U.S., Congress created courts for our territories. These courts are in places like Guam and the Virgin Islands. And they kind of, because those aren't states, like Guam, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, these territorial courts actually function much more like a local court would do in California, like our California state courts. It would function more like that. So that's what our territorial courts do. Next, we have the DC courts, District of Columbia courts. And this is as directed by the Constitution. Congress established a system of courts for the seat of the government of the U.S. That's what they said, the seat of the government. That was their way of saying the capital of the United States. Okay, but we didn't have the capital, a permanent capital when they wrote the Constitution. Okay, so that came later on that we had DC as the capital. So the DC courts handles all local judicial matters for the district, including trials and appeals. So again, kind of like the state courts. Okay. We have the U.S. Tax Court. The tax court was created in 1969 by Congress, and the tax court hears civil, but not criminal cases. Again, civil would be involving payments usually. Criminal is jail time. Okay. So civil cases involving disputes over the application of tax laws. Okay. So things that have to do with taxes. And you can actually appeal a decision of the tax court to the Federal Court of Appeals. So it can go up the branch that way. Then we have the Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces. And this court is a civilian tribunal, a court operating as part of the judicial branch, entirely separate from the military establishment, which is interesting. The court reviews the more serious convictions of members, it's supposed to say of members of the armed forces at a court martial or a trial involving military law. Okay. That's the Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces. The Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. My husband's laughing at me because I'm yawning. This court hears cases in which individuals claim that the Department of Veterans Affairs has denied or otherwise mishandled valid claims of veterans' benefits. So if you're a veteran, if you served in the armed forces, you get a certain amount of benefits. So if any of those benefits are mishandled, they can take it to the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, and that's where they will hear that case. Okay. Okay, we also have judicial selection for the lower courts. Is a little bit different than the higher courts like the Supreme Court. The president doesn't do a whole lot with the choosing of this, and it's basically because there are so many. Okay. Since there's a large number of appointments, The Department of Justice and the White House staff handle most of the nominations. A lot of times they give what's called senatorial courtesy, where they allow senators that are from the president's party who represent a state with a vacancy to approve or disapprove nominees. So for instance, if California had some, if one of our federal courts had an opening, President Biden would maybe talk to either one of our senators and say, well, what do you think about appointing this one or that one? Okay, actually, it probably wouldn't be President Biden that would talk to him. It would be somebody else in his staff. Okay, but that would be senatorial courtesy. All right, so this one is what is a federal crime, and it's going to just give you a long list because I think it's important for you to be able to distinguish what a federal crime is versus a state crime. Okay, federal crime is a crime that is either made illegal by U.S. federal legislation, by our laws, or a crime that occurs on U.S. federal property. Okay, so here's the examples. Are you ready? Murder during a hostage taking. Murder with the intent of preventing testimony by a witness, victim, or informant. Mailing of injurious articles with intent to kill or result in death. So these are like mail bombs and things like that. Okay. Murder for hire. Bank robbery related murder or kidnapping. Murder by the use of a weapon of mass destruction. Trafficking in large quantities of drugs. Treason. Murder related to the smuggling of illegal immigrants. Murder committed during a drug-related drive-by shooting. Murder committed at an airport serving international civil aviation. Civil rights offenses resulting in death. Murder of a member of Congress, an important executive official, or a Supreme Court justice. Murder committed by the use of a firearm during a crime of violence or a drug trafficking crime. Murder of a U.S. national in a foreign country. Murder during a kidnapping. Murder involving torture. Espionage, which is spying. And hijacking of an airplane. Okay, so those are some of the examples. That's not all of the federal crimes, but that should give you a little bit more of an idea of what a federal crime is. All right, that is the Supreme Court. If you are standing on these steps and you're looking away from the court, you're actually looking across at the Capitol building. And then past the Capitol building would be the Washington Monument and whatnot. The Library of Congress is actually just over here to the right of the Supreme Court. And then over to the left would be some of the Senate office buildings. All right, it says our exam is tomorrow, is Wednesday. That's not true. Okay, remember we've moved it a couple times. It's actually going to be on Friday for you guys, Friday, December 9. I will probably have you play a Kahoot in class on Thursday because I think you're going to have Mrs. Corrales there and she can do the Kahoot with you in class. And then remember, SCOTUS presentations are going to be on Monday and Tuesday, and I will put a schedule up for you really soon of who's presenting on what day. And we are going to have to go pretty quickly with those. We have 50-minute time periods, class periods. We have about 5 minutes per presentation. So I will try to divide that well, and I'll put it up on Canvas for you. Okay. So SCOTUS presentations will be next Monday and Tuesday, the 12th and 13th. Kahoot review will be played in class with you on Thursday. Your test is going to be on Friday. Okay. That's it. That is it for the notes for government. So I hope you guys did well. Make sure you, after you're done typing in all the notes, that you do submit it to Canvas so that I can give you points. And I will most likely see you on Monday. All right, bye.